Well, today I'm here with Sammy Freds or Samantha Freds. I guess I'm not even sure how to call you correctly. What do you go by these days?
Either's fine. I'm good with both.
All right. Uh, I have known Sammy since, oh my goodness, I think she was probably about 4 years old when our families first met. And so known each other a long time. Actually performed her wedding to her husband. And so we've had lots of connections over the years, and she just has a great transformation story that I wanted to be able to share with you today. So the first question I would start off with, Sammy, is just tell us a little bit about where were you when God found you and kind of came into your life? What was sort of the theme of what was going on at that time?
Yeah, I've thought about it a little bit, and the word that I've used to describe that time was divided or compartmentalized. You could say I was living a double life. Um, I grew up in the church, and my dad became a pastor when I was in fourth grade. So we were there when the doors were open. Sometimes when they weren't, we were still at the church. And so I think my foundation was great. I love the fact that I grew up in the church. I loved volunteering and teaching and getting to lead worship and all of those things. So I don't want to paint that in a negative light. But for me, I found out that I was doing church. I was doing it well, but the relationship hadn't hit. I guess I thought it did. But anyway, that divided life started early, but it really came to a head in college and the few years after, even after I graduated. I found myself in a relationship that I couldn't bring home, one that I knew God was not um, pleased with, that he didn't approve of. And it was like I had to put the two parts of my life in different buckets. It's like these actions and behaviors and even opinions and beliefs go over here, and the language I use is good here, but not over here. And somehow those two buckets turned into an identity that I had created for myself. And it got to the absolute core of who I thought I was. And so I started living this divided life because I knew that they couldn't fit together, that I couldn't be a Christ follower the way I had grown up and knew that he would have me live, and do the things and be the things that I found myself in. And so I was living a divided life, and I was thinking about it this morning after you gave me these questions, and I thought, I didn't realize how physically taxing it is to live a divided life. And I thought back a little bit of even the health implications of my life. I had, we blamed it on stress at the time, and it was, but man, after that, after I got past that part of my life, I was working full time and getting my master's online, and I didn't have the same health issues that I did when I was living that divided life, and heart palpitations and all kinds of crazy stuff that I didn't realize I was so physically affected by that part of my life. It's very difficult to live not as a whole person. And so kind of the image that came to mind was straddling the rails of a railroad track. And I was straddling an ever widening railroad track. And that, I think, is where Jesus found me, practically torn in two, trying to hang on to both sides when they just were not going to mesh together. So that's where he found me. That's what characterized my life before I truly began to follow Jesus.
Okay. And what was the thing that sort of, when it all came to a head, what was the choice that made you decide, well, I'm gonna be a Christ follower. I'm gonna choose that bucket, so to speak, for my life, and what would be the circumstances there?
Man, I didn't have this billboard dramatic moment, and I can't even think of the day that it happened. I just came to the realization that he never stopped pursuing me, and I asked him to. Let me tell you, I asked him to stop. Like I was good where I was at, and the life I had decided I wanted to live, and the identity I wanted to have. And I asked him to just let me go, and he wouldn't, and he didn't. And so I think uh, when I realized that, truly, when I truly realized that he wasn't going to let go, and that I couldn't do both, and I wasn't happy where I was, um, that's when. Shoot, did it kick us out?
No, you're good now.
Oh no, we're
Only
still
momentarily.
okay. We're good. Sorry. All right. So he gave me a way out of that situation. One I didn't ask for, but I took it, and it wasn't easy initially, and it didn't happen all at once. But I think just realizing that our Heavenly Father pursues us and truly loves us more than we know and deserve. When I came to that realization is when I was like, okay, God, I'm gonna do this again. I'm gonna try this for real this time. And so yeah, I decided to take that step.
Cool. Now, in this, what's been the big transformation in your life ever since? Kind of how has it been different? You hinted a little bit at physically how you just improved your health, but what else has been there?
Um, well, yeah, there's so much there. I think if I walked back into my life, if I got a glimpse of that previous me, I wouldn't even recognize myself from back then. When I walked away from that life, really when God carried me away, that I love the footprints in the sand image, because that I know that's absolutely what happened. That I got carried out of that situation that I had brought myself into. Um, and so my life is so much different now. But that's what God does. He is in the business of new identity. I can attest to the old has gone and the new has come. I am not perfect. I still make mistakes. He's still working on me, but the idea that I am cooperating with that is it's so much easier when we come to the table and say, Lord, I'm yours. I want to grow and to walk with you. And so there's some specific things you mentioned, that I got married eventually to Derek, and God brought a wonderful man into my life, and I think that's absolutely part of my transformation story. And I've since accepted a call to full-time ministry, something I never thought I would do. I always said I wouldn't marry a pastor, so God has a real sense of humor there, in the fact that I'm becoming one. And the last 2 years of going to seminary has been an extremely transformative process, and it's amazing. So yeah, I'm not even sure that answers the question, but it's like I look around and my life is just so much different. I feel lighter even. It's hard to describe. We all live a little bit of a double life, but to the level that I did, it's hard to describe how wonderful it is to be a whole person.
Uh-huh.
Still a work in progress, but to be a whole person it's incredible. So yeah.
That's great. And what would you give as a word of encouragement to maybe someone out there who's just kind of muddling through life, or maybe they've got two buckets themselves, or or they're just living in fear because of what's going on right now? What would you say to encourage them?
For me, I think it's one step at a time. Like I said, I didn't have a big billboard moment, but I just started taking one step at a time. And the first step was small and it was painful, but he met me there. And so I would just encourage those people that, especially if you feel like you're straddling two identities, two lifestyles, just take one step to move towards where God is calling you, because He will absolutely meet you there. He will carry you there, and so it doesn't have to all change at once. Like I said, He's in the business of new identities, and He is willing to take one baby step at a time with you. So that's the encouragement, one day at a time. Right now, as we're going through the crazy stuff that we're watching and living through right now. So he's with us, and I would just say take one step at a time.
Well, that's great. Thanks, Sammy, for taking the time out to share your story with us. I think these are very encouraging to people who are being able to watch them and see them, and I just trust that someone out there needs to hear what you've had to say, and we can give that opportunity to them.
That's great. Thank you.